And welcome to Success Talk. I'm Deborah Shariff. Thanks so much for streaming in. Today's guest, I have Dr. Timothy Owens Moore. Dr. Moore is a graduate of Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, and he has a master's degree and a PhD from Howard University. For more than 20 years, he has served as a college professor, a biomedical researcher, and an African centered scholar slash activist. He has served as an assistant professor at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and an associate professor and chairperson of the Department of Psychology at Clark Atlanta University. His specialty courses are both in the field of neuroscience and African-centered psychology. Dr. Moore is author of several books on the science of melanin. Welcome, Dr. Moore. We are so excited to have you.
Thanks, this is Sharif. My pleasure to be on your program.
Absolutely. Well, the first question I have for you is what motivated you to actually get into this field of study?
Uh, well, I think you saw me in Las Vegas first time we met, and that was a beautiful experience. And thank you for allowing me to talk about success on your program, because the reality is some of us don't have any role models or any examples in front of us to know what we need to be doing in life. This whole issue of self-image and who we are. Many of us have gone through school and didn't know anything about our history and our culture. So for me, studying psychology and then studying the brain and then looking at science, it gave me a greater sense of knowing who I was, and it gave me the excitement to want to study and continue on.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of controversy around melanin. And I was, preparing for this show. I actually checked out a couple of the neuroscientists and some of the folks who are into this. But I'm wondering, how can this particular field of study, why is it important that we as Black folks or people of color need to know about this particular area of melanin?
Well, we've been talked about for so bad for so long in terms of modern history, not historically, because we are the original people on the planet. The issue is, when does it script get flipped, and now we're not looking at us as the historical origins of humanity. So for me, looking at the dynamics of us knowing our history and our culture, melanin became a very important topic because it's dealing with blackness. And most of the time, when you hear about black or dark, it's negative and bad. Well, someone has made that language that way. So we have to change the narrative and alter it so that we understand that black is not bad. Having pigmentation is a fantastic uh, element, considering the world right now. You living out there in Las Vegas, knowing about the heat and the dry air and the sun. And guess what? If you don't have any protection outside, then your body is not going to be healthy. So the melanin as a pigment, not just here in our skin, but in our body, in our brain, it becomes very significant. So if we don't teach it that way, we'll never understand it. So it's a matter of organizing how we look at science and looking at how we look at Black people.
Absolutely. And I want to bring up your books because I am just blown away with the books. And of course, I bought all three of your books
Mm.
at
Thank
the
you.
event. And I wonder if you could speak to either one or two of the books, because one that I really enjoyed was the one that mentioned about, and let me just kind of pull this one up, which was called Pigment Power.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about that, because I'm sure that a lot of people like myself are sort of like, we're just kind of getting in step with this pathway of melanin and pigment. And experts like yourself have been in this arena for many, many years. So pigment power is what, Dr. Moore?
Okay. Well, I wrote The Science of Melanin, which is there on the left, back in 95. It's been revised. There's someone else that's actually marketing my book called The Science and the Myth of Melanin with my name on it, but it's not really my publication. So I put out The Science of Melanin as a baseline primer to give us a sense of where it is, what it is, in an elementary level, so that we have a interest in it. So I deal with the brain, I deal with the skin, I deal with the connection between the brain and the skin. So that's what Science of Melanin is about. So we fast forward to almost what 20 plus years later. Pigment power is going into more depth about some of the science. I kind of get provocative in it, and if you see the chapters, I have the first chapter dealing with really politics. I call it "From the Cell Body to the Body Politic." I talk about the social implications of blackness, which you just asked about why it is that I'm even interested in this area, because it's politicized. Anytime you hear the word blackness, is that something bad? It should not be, but that's how the media will portray it. Well, the we deal with the politics of it in that first chapter. Second chapter talks about melanin and health promotion. Without melanin, you don't have life. It's like the chlorophyll on the plant. Without chlorophyll, there is no life in the plant. So with our bodies, without the melanin in our skin and our brains, our bodies become defective. So that's something important to talk about in terms of promotion. It's in our nervous system. I have an interesting chapter called chapter 4 called Sun Conscious. Without having that sun in your life, it's not good. The sun is the generator of all life. So our bodies become like batteries generated from that energy. So chapter 5, electromagnetic energy and mental health. There are some people that are really receptive and they respond to the global electromagnetic energy more so than others. That whole issue of driving an electric car. I don't have one, probably won't get one, but it's like riding on a battery. So that could be draining to somebody physically. So you have to pay attention to all that. And then chapter 6, Rhythm Nation. I mean, we know about movement and dance and rhythm. That's part of our reality. Where does that come from? It comes from the brain. You have to be able to sing and dance and to the beat, and that takes higher brain function to do that. And then so chapter 7, penis power and pigmentation. So we're talking about the reality that we have our internal or our organs that are covered by our clothing, but they're still dark. Well, why is that? Because the melanin's playing an important role for the longevity of those organs. And then melanin cellular enhancement, and then the issue of stress and aging. When you hear about people say, oh, black doesn't crack, or whatever that means, guess what? There's some science to that. So we explain that in terms of genetics. And then I conclude with talking about technology, get a little bit more advanced for those who are ready to explore science. And I talk about astrobiology, because when we speak about us being from maybe somewhere else, you just think about that reality of in the celestial world, stars, the same things in the stars are in our bodies. How many people think about that? So we're really like star people. And the last chapter was on pigment powered defense system. And I wrote that as the pandemic was approaching, because again, our melanin serves as a biological agent to help thwart and get rid of viruses. So that's why I wrote Pigment Power.
Oh, it is a fascinating read. I didn't have an opportunity. I actually started off reading
Okay.
The Science of Melanin,
Good.
but pigment, yes. But, this is something new for a lot of us, because some of the controversy around our skin color is one in which has been going on forever. One of the individuals that you mentioned was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing.
Yes.
And I have a short story about Dr.
Okay.
Frances Cress Welsing. When she first left Howard University, she actually toured the country with her book, The Color Confrontation. Now, I was a whippersnapper back then. This was in the 70s when I was in college.
Okay.
And I really embraced what she had to say, because I'm wondering if most Black folk think the way I do. You always wonder, why do some folks have such envy of who we are? And does it have something to do with the color of our skin? And this was something, Dr. Moore, that I grew up with as a child. My parents, thank goodness I had parents that I did, because my mom used to always say, girl, you got that golden brown skin when you get out there in the sun. And I would compare that, because I went to a Catholic school back in the day in the South End. And of course, there was a lot of Irish children that went there. And so I used to compare my skin and hold it up. I was proud of that. So when Dr. Frances Cress Welsing came along and talked about the beauty of our skin, I
Mhm.
was like really overwhelmed. But there was also some critics that said that Dr. Cress Welsing in your book did not have enough evidence. And the only thing, and I want you to respond to that, Dr. Moore, but the only way I can respond is as soon as the sun hits. Used to live on the East Coast. Soon as the sun hits, right?
Right.
White people are out there trying to get brown. So is that not evidence?
I hear you. So where did you first meet her in your travels? Was it on the West Coast?
No, no, she actually came to Boston. I
Okay.
attended Boston State College, undergrad school, and I was the media director at the, I was studying African American studies, and I also was in the media department. And
Okay.
we did a series. Dr. Cress-Welsing was there for the whole weekend.
Excellent. Yeah, so she wrote her book, ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors in 91. So she included her article that she did back in the 70s called The Crest Theory of Color Confrontation. So she has been at the forefront really to define all this mess that we have going on right now, what happened in Buffalo, what's happened with these cops when they killed that one brother in Akron, Ohio, shot him 60 times. And so what is going on in the mindset that these melanin recessive people have this fear? What is it? And then, as she's saying, it can't be anything more than the darkness and the blackness of what they're seeing and fearing. So the two driving factors for her theory are that Europeans or melanin recessive people feel as though they're genetically inferior because they don't have enough melanin to produce. Therefore, if they mix and mingle, then they'll be canceled out. And then they're numerically inadequate when you speak about the numbers in the world. Therefore, they've designed and created a world system. And she got that from a brother named Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller wrote his book, about United Compensatory Code System on racism or white supremacy. So she's using that, and I commend her without a question. She's been like I said, when you're at the forefront, you're going to take some hits. All I was saying in my text is that she was focused on a psychogenetic theory, and I would go with the psycho or historical cultural story, like Dr. Shaking the Deal would talk about, rather than saying that somebody just has some gene or it's the melanin that makes you build civilizations, it's the melanin lack of it that makes you kill people, because we know that we have black people doing negative things, or white people doing good things. So I just could not go along with just that storyline. But she is totally on target when you speak about what's going on all over the world, from Peru to Colombia to Asia to here in the United States. This fear of darkness and blackness and people trying to lighten their skin. And what are you doing that for? It's got to be a psychological reason, and that's what we really don't discuss. That's why she was, I wouldn't say a danger. She was uh she was challenging to deal with because she's dealing with real issues.
But it empowered me because I hadn't heard, none of the professors at my college were really talking about our skin. And she started off with, it was so interesting, Dr. Moore. She started off with talking about the fact that she was in her kitchen one day and she was trying to figure out why folks don't like black people. This is what she
Mhm.
said, her own words.
Right.
And she said, and then she said there was a ray of sun, like a ray that just like ping hit her on her head. And
Mhm.
she said all of a sudden it dawned on her the fact that we have color is why we're envied. And so she actually told all of us college students, she said, I want you all to, get on a train or go on a bus or go to the beach and just watch people's expression. She wanted us to be our own scientists. So, anyways, as a college student, I was impressionable, and I certainly loved her, and I followed her right up until she passed away recently. But it was just interesting. I'm so glad that you mentioned her in the book. Um,
Yeah,
be-
I honor her. She's, like I said, at the forefront, and you cannot dismiss those who've set the pathway to have a discussion on melanin. Do you know where she actually went after she graduated from Howard to explore these ideas?
no.
Nazi Germany. Her
Oh,
parents, she asked her parents asked her, "So what do you want for graduation?" I want to go to Nazi Germany. But why? Because she wanted to study what could be in the mindset of a people that wants to exterminate a whole nother people. So as a psychiatrist, she was thinking about this for a long time, and so she became vilified. I think maybe that's where I was trying to find earlier. Vilified by the psychiatric movement because she's saying that white people are genetically inferior and that they have these psychological motives to want to kill black people. But then it's like, okay, well, prove it. Prove it's not. Prove that it's not the case. And so we aren't talking about that. Just talking about the controversy of her even having the thoughts to even say that.
absolutely. And it was really interesting because she did say, I mean, this is out of her own mouth. And so if anybody, they'll probably say, what is Deborah talking about? Well, she got fired from Howard University. Did you know that, Dr. Moore?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a Howard grad. Yeah.
she talked about it, and she said when she came out with the color confrontation and the other paper that she wrote, which I can't say it's profanity, but you remember that, the mother,
Mm.
and talked about that. But she mentioned, she said that goes to show you that is Howard University, and she went on to talk about the fact who really controls some of the HBCUs. So I was fascinated, but I want to get back to you, Dr. Moore, and talk more specifically of having this information because when you read books and you find out more and more information about who we are, our physiological structure, and the fact that what this pigmentation means. What is the impact that you've had over the years? More specifically, I can say the general population, or do you share some of this information, let's say with college kids? Well, of course you're a professor, but high school kids on another level. What has been the impact?
Well, truthfully, I've been teaching for about 30 years. And so from the bio at 20, so I got a little bit time in the game. Most of the time I get a really chance to speak about this is really outside the classroom. I don't really talk too much in the classroom about this because I'm covering multiple areas. I deal with physiological psychology, so I'm training students to go on to study the brain, be counselors, clinicians. If they deal with pharmacology, they need to know that in terms of the drugs, how they affect the body. I also teach a class called African-centered psychology, so I'm dealing more with history and culture, and also how that has an impact on people's ability to, ability to thrive and move forward. So I really have had the opportunity now with the books to reach the world. So I've gone over the world. I've spoken in Africa, South America, the Caribbean islands. I haven't gone to Asia, but spoken in Europe. So I've given talks on the topic. And so outside the classroom, it's been really enjoyable because people really all over the world are struggling with self-esteem, self-image, who they are, and not knowing themselves and understanding that blackness is not bad. It's actually excellent. I mean, if you don't have this solar generating force, then you don't have life. This whole vitamin D story that we're now discussing about how it's not really a vitamin, actually, it's a hormone. It's created from the steroid hormone created from the sun. So it's not just a vitamin, which means that it's something coming from the sun creating your body to be healthy on multiple levels. So our immune systems are to boost our ability to thrive and have good health. No sun, no life. That means your body must be able to deal with that. So when you're teaching people about the importance of blackness, pigmentation, now you go into the brain and the lack of it can cause a problem. So a lack of it can create some mental disturbances. Really?
Mm.
So therefore, when you start to understand that, you see, guess what? It's not a frivolous document. I mean, pigment or biological entity. No, it's essential for life. If it's not there at the very beginnings of birth and development. The fetus can develop spinal bifida, neural tube defects, and have a whole lot of problems with development. You see a person who, when they're older, if they lack melanin on the outside of the body, they can be albino. Albinos have a lot of defects, from eye problems, ear issues, to skin problems dealing with the sun. So melanin is an advantage in life. Certainly, there's certain environments, and we can go into that at some other point, where too much melanin in a environment with not a lot of sun can create a problem like rickets, where you're not getting the nutrients that the sun and the environment's providing. But other than that, we are melanin rich, and that's an important thing to have.
Well, that brings up how do you keep your melanin healthy? I mean, is there some sort of food management plan that we should be aware of to keep to keep
Yes,
that brown skin brown? Or
right, right. So there are several books out there I can provide for you and your audience that talk about melanin and the diet, talk about spiritual awakening and how it is that you can now uh, use certain food items to boost. If you think about it, if melanin is a pigment, therefore eating pigmented foods is going to be more advantageous. Eating more dead or putrefied foods is going to like lessen the life force. So you're eating life giving foods more often. Things that are coming out of the ground, growing from the root. Those are what are elements that are going to keep your body healthy. The reason why we may become more ill and not as healthy is because we're eating a lot of fried foods and processed foods and synthetic foods, and so all that in the long run is not going to make you feel as well. Just as a quick reminder, you don't die of natural causes, you die of toxicity over time, which means you've poisoned yourself with all these bad elements. But melanin is a preserver. If you bite that apple, or you bite that banana, you put it on the table, what does it turn? Brown. That's the melanin preventing the spoilage.
Wow.
So you get
Wow.
that cut on your hand or your wrist or somewhere, it may look red because that's the blood, but over a while it's going to turn dark because it's what the melanin absorb, making sure that that body part heals right. So melanin has advantages, and I talk about the science of melanin. Number one, it's a nerve conduction facilitator. That means it helps the nerve impulses go quicker and faster. That's why when we think about rap music, people talk about rap music bad. Well, those who talk about it can't do it. To be able to sing and have a polysyllabic terminology and stay on rhythm, that's higher brain function. Uh, Number one, it also serves as a neutralizer of toxic substances. When we say neutralizer, we have pollution all around us. So the melanin helps to absorb toxic chemicals like free radicals. Free radicals are chemicals that can destroy your cells. They have a missing electron, so they go find a cell. And then they go find another cell because they keep on taking cells. And that's why your cells deteriorate. Well, melanin neutralizes that. And you may have heard certain food items called antioxidants in your food or lotions. Well, melanin is a natural antioxidant. And the last one is an energy transformer. It helps to transform energy so your body can recognize it. Like you don't see light, you see it, but what is light? Well, that energy must be transmitted for your brain to recognize that. And it happens in the back of your eyeball called the retina. And it's pigmented. If it's not pigmented, you're basically blind and can't see. In your ear, you have inner ear melanin. There's certain sounds and frequencies that we hear that keep us in tune. So a lot of people who like rock music, high pitched guitar, some people like the deep bass. I mean, you're hearing different things. So all those realities are really responsive to how melanin works.
Wow. And we have a few minutes left because time is fleeting. But how can someone get a hold of or purchase some of your books? And I'm just going to show some of the books up here
Okay.
that
Yeah.
you have.
I think you had a running tab on the my website. So www.drtmore.com is a simple way to reach me. My email address, you had that. Uh,
You want to
Dr.
give that one out, Dr. Moore?
Sure. Dr. Timor
Oh,
online at gmail.com. That's not a problem at all.
okay.
So,
Can you see the ticker underneath that has it? I hope I have the right information under there. If you want to get a hold of Dr. Moore and his books, and you can see it's d.moore.com, except, but you can continue with your
yeah.
contact
So
information.
drtmore.com. Only thing I got wrong was my name, Owens, but that's okay because it's not going to be searching for that. But that's all right. As long as they know it's that website. And again, if for your audience, if they want to contact me, the email is not a problem at all. You're fancy with your podcast and you are doing your thing. I'm proud of you in terms of you
Oh,
being successful. Because
absolutely.
it's not easy reaching the world like this. And we had little technical difficulties earlier, but you resolved it.
Well, actually, you did. All you did was log in and log back out, which was really good. I'm just going to check with any questions from my producer. Just wanted to make sure because I did mention I did a little promo and I said if anyone has any questions, but
Okay.
were there?
There wasn't any questions, but I have a question.
Oh, okay. There is a question from my producer. So
Okay.
ask away.
So my question is,
And I'll just
with
wait.
this new, I'm going to say it.
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
With this new, when people discover the power of their melanin, what are people able to do now with the new self-image, with the awareness of their power, versus when people don't know their power of their melanin? What is the change that do you recognize happens in their lives?
Right. That's an excellent question because we didn't want to then just focus on the biology of it. Like, okay, now I got superpowers. Although we have a whole lot of movies with the Avengers and the Boys and all these new, I guess, these series about superheroes, like even with Wakanda and Black Panther. So It's not a matter of saying biologically, hey, now I'm great. No, it's a matter of understanding that as the original person on the planet, there's power in that. Therein lies why Dr. Welsing, as a psychiatrist, was breaking down why people fear that. Because genetically wise, you can be canceled out if the melanin is that strong as a biological entity. So, dealing with self image, those who lack it say it's bad. Those who lack it are the ones that control the media and the social influence. Therefore, they're the ones that dictate and control the way things operate. To get out of that control, you have to start understanding that you have to have a better self-image rather than someone telling you that you're negative and bad. And that's how they made slaves. That's how they made Africans imprisoned. I don't call them slaves, they're slaves all over the world. But they imprisoned us and brought us abroad away from our homes and made us live in a negative state of mind. Now, by us understanding our melanin and how it helps out physiologically and helps out with the body and keeps us in tune with the universe and nature, you have a whole different perspective on life rather than waiting on someone else to tell you who you are. No, you get to investigate that yourself. No one's going to tell you about your power. You have to seek that power yourself.
Wow, that was great. Thanks, Kai, for that. That's my producer. She had a question and she
Awesome.
got it. She definitely got it answered by Dr. Moore. So, Dr. Moore, we're closing out, and I just want you to give the listeners and the viewers your contact information slowly, if you can say it twice, because I know I'm going to get emails. Who's that? The brother you had on?
Yeah.
So please.
Okay, well, simply as you had the running tab there for the website, DR like doctor, T Moore like T and MOORE.com. So that's a simple way to search out my material. I do have a YouTube, I guess, page, a YouTube link, and that would be basically my name, Timothy Ownens Moore. You can search that. I just actually submitted a presentation on what you just asked about with the nature of the violence against us as a people. Why are we always being attacked? Like from what happened in Buffalo to all over the world. What's going on with the mindset when people want to wipe us out? So I dealt with that in one of my YouTube presentations. And then again, my email would be drtmooreonline@gmail.com. So drtmooreonline@gmail.com.
Wow. We are out of time. Dr. Moore, this has been so stimulating. It's been empowering because it's another part of who we are.
Absolutely.
And we're so absolutely grateful that you and so many others are studying this area and bringing it to the forefront so that we can have an opportunity to really understand, the power that we have. And I'm just so thrilled, so thankful that all the way you're in Georgia.
Correct. Yes.
Is it Atlanta, Georgia, or just
Yes,
Georgia?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia. That's what I thought.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Moore. I'd like you just, as I close off the stream, I just want you to wait just a few seconds so I can talk to you a little bit. But thank you so much for being a part of Success Talk. And I look forward to you coming back at some future time and date. And thank you so much again, Dr. Moore.
You're welcome. Sante Sana.